All right, welcome everybody. I'm Annie. I'm with Reef, the Restoration Program Director. We've also got True Barnes on the line with Reef that will be helping out with some of the questions, and then a bunch of speakers for you as well, which I'll introduce in the next slide. Just a little background here. This is actually two webinars kind of combined into one. It's actually the last of our winter webinar series, which originally was just supposed to be a community restoration general talk, but we were planning for this Caspar Cove webinar at the same time, and we just thought it would be a perfect opportunity to just combine and expand. So this talk specifically will be all about Caspar Cove. So, and then this is actually our third annual Caspar Cove webinar presenting on the results. So I will get started. Oh, already, there we go. So we have a ton of speakers for tonight. Of course, myself. We've got Shelby Kawana, who is an environmental scientist with CDFW. Pike Spector with OPC. He's a biodiversity program manager. Pete Guinosso with Blue Harmony. He's its executive director. Ben Grime with the Nature Conservancy. He's an ocean recovery scientist. And Franklin, hopefully I just asked this, Moitozo. Is that correct? Moitozo. Cal
It's all
Poly
good.
Humboldt.
It's Moitozo. You're good.
Matilda. They just told me that. I'm sorry, Frankie. And you're a research associate at Cal Poly Humboldt. I also wanted to set a moment here, obviously, to remember Josh Russo, who was the heart and soul of this Caspar Cove project. If those of you who are unaware, he passed recently and suddenly, and it's been a huge hit to the community in the North Coast and just for restoration practitioners, just everybody in general. And it's just there's been a huge hole left by him, and we just want to take the moment to remember him and just yeah, I just a few seconds to remember Josh because this was all about him. All right, miss you, Josh. Okay. Um, So a little bit of housekeeping, just obviously keep yourself on mute, and we'll have questions at the end of the presentation. Um, we'll also provide contact information at the end of the slides for all the organizations involved. And yes, a recording will be sent to everybody who has RSVP'd. So just to kind of give you a little context of what happened on the West Coast, I know everybody has heard this probably over and over again, so I'll be relatively brief, but just to kind of put you in perspective. In 2014 to 2016, many of the kelp forests on the West Coast transformed into these urchin barrens. This was due to marine heat wave events. So it first began as this like unprecedented heat wave, which we later called the blob in September 2014. And then it was followed by an El Nino event that went over from 2015 to 2016. And that El Nino events obviously bring some warm water into the system. And the entire West Coast really of North America was affected by this, but in California, the two regions hit the hardest was Northern California and then slightly less so in Central California. So this is using Reef Check data and focusing specifically on Northern California, looking at bull kelp density over time. And all the data here being shown was collected from everywhere north of San Francisco. And that gray bar represents that heat wave event. So you could just see a steady and steep decline since that event. And it has been minimal return or minimal recovery since. and over 90% of kelp forests were lost in Northern California. And then, as I mentioned about those urchin barrens, again, this is looking densities over time using reef check data. That gray bar is that blob, and you just see an exponential increase in purple urchins. That's over 15, or on average 1,500 urchins per survey, which is 60 meters squared, or about like 100 meter or 100 feet. And the same for red urchins too, but very much less so. It's only about 100 per square, 60 meters squared. And so so kelp forests actually are known to have these different states of kelp forest and barren. It's a natural cycle that they go through. But when you're losing some ecosystem resilience, it makes it harder for kelp forests to return after these large-scale heat wave or unprecedented events. So particularly losing some major predators was a huge issue. So sea otters, who are obviously a big purple urchin predator, were absent since the fur trade in 1850. And then more recently, another predator, which is the sunflower star, was lost just before these heat waves started in 2013 due to disease, which almost decimated the entire population. So we're losing our ability or the kelp forests are losing their ability to bounce back from these huge and multiple impacted events. So that leads us to human-led restoration efforts. There's different ways that we can go about this intervention process. You can do a commercial hand harvest, which a lot of the Northern California sites have been undergoing, where the commercial urchin divers who originally harvested red urchins have now switched and helping out with removing purple urchins from the system. You can also have in situ recreational culling, where you basically take a hammer and you smash the urchins. And then there's also trapping, which is largely led by the Nature Conservancy, where you can remove urchins. You bait them like any other animal or lobster. You put some kelp on there, and then you remove urchins from the system that way. So now that leads us specifically to Caspar Cove. So the thought is, after all these restoration efforts, can we remove, or different methods, I should say, can we remove urchins to a certain level or a threshold that will allow kelp to return? And so that brought on this emergency policy change by the Fish and Game Commission that allows unlimited take specifically at Caspar Cove with a fishing permit. So there was only 2 locations that they allowed this to happen. One at Tinker's Reef, which has since sunset, and here at Caspar Cove. This experimental purple urchin culling here at Caspar Cove started around just after 2020, or a few months into 2020, and then has been expanded for another 5 years into 2029. So we're just trying to test whether recreational divers can remove urchin densities low enough to allow kelp to return. And this effort, I should say, was obviously led mostly by Watermen's Alliance and Josh Russo. And this has been a huge community effort, a really grassroots effort, especially in Northern California, which was really affected by COVID impacts. A lot of the dive shops were shut, and it just has taken a lot of time to get to this point. And Josh and the community so far has done a great job, yeah. So for Caspar Cove, this is a map. So what you do is that they've split the the cove into 6 cells, just to identify where you're culling urchins. And then all recreational divers log their dives into this form here. This is all completely voluntary, obviously, and you can come at any time. And originally, I should say that we were directing divers specifically in this marker buoy area in A. But there's been other efforts. So recreational divers mostly go into cell A and B, but there's some other efforts by Cal Poly and some commercial urchin divers that have removed urchins from F and E and D, I think, as well. So with that, we're gonna move on to Shelby, who will be talking more about the regulation side and efforts through CDFW. Shelby, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All
Thanks,
right.
Annie. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Shelby Kawana. I'm an environmental scientist with CFW, and I work on the Nearshore Bay Management Program, focusing on kelp and marine algae. I'm just going to go over, as Annie said, some of the current regulations and department updates. So yeah, go ahead, next slide, please. Yeah, so Annie, you did a good job of overviewing some of the regs, but I'll just take a little bit deeper dive into the California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Section 29.6. This authorizes the recreational take of urchin with a valid sport fishing license. So for A, this is our statewide daily bag limit, which is 35 sea urchin per species per person per day. And then B here, that's for Sonoma and Mendocino and Humboldt counties only. The recreational limit for purple urchins is 40 gallons per person per day. This only applies to skin and scuba divers. And then the regulation that's specific to this project, as Annie mentioned, until April 1st, 2029, in the Caspar Cove boundary, which you saw in the previous map that Annie pulled up, purple urchins may be taken in any number for the purpose of restoring the kelp ecosystem. Purple urchin may be taken by hand or by manually operating handheld tools. So do note that this is for purple urchin only. So if you still would like to take red urchins, that is going to be operating under A, that statewide bag limit of 35 sea urchin per day. And with that, for red urchin, there is no size limit, there's no season. You just can't crush them in situ. I'll drop a link to the chat or in the chat to some of, if you're interested in seeing some of these regs. And then next slide, please. Yes, thanks. As many of you know, the Caspar Cove project is being conducted through a collaborative effort with the recreational dive community and a broad group of partners, many of which we're going to be hearing from today, collecting ecological monitoring data, including subtidal and aerial remote sensing data. Additionally, diver log data is being collected from the recreational divers, as well as some overlapping commercial diver activity, which is allowed in the northern portion of the cove. And then just want to plug a couple of reminders that, thanks. If you're considering to join this project or continue with this effort, please make sure to log your dives in the portal. Annie had a good picture of that, and we'll drop that link in the chat as well. And make sure that you have your valid recreational fishing license. In case folks don't know, you can sign up for auto renewal now, which I just did. So I'm really looking forward to not having to worry about when my license expires. It should just be mailed to me. So that's pretty cool. And then next slide, please. Cool. So as many of you probably have heard, CDFW in partnership with Ocean Protection Council is actively working on the Kelp Restoration and Management Plan, or the KRMP. The goal of this plan is to develop an adaptive, climate-ready approach to managing, protecting, and restoring giant and bull kelp forests ecosystems statewide for consideration and adoption by the Fish and Game Commission. The core components of the KRMP include the ecosystem-based management approach, adaptive kelp harvest framework, and a restoration toolkit. So outcomes from this project, as well as many other important restoration research projects across the state, will all help inform the development of the KRMP. Specifically, these projects will inform the restoration toolkit, which will include a suite of scientifically tested restoration techniques that can be incorporated into the management strategy. So next slide. So if you're interested, please check out our website and follow along with the progress of the KRMP. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom to see the timeline and then relevant links. You can also find the list of community working group members, which are helping to provide input and shaping the plan, and include some of the partners on the Caspar Cove project. So please reach out to community group members to share your input, or also you can reach out to the kelp@wildlife.ca.gov if you have any questions about the KRMP or any of the information I just went over. And we're also planning to have representation at the April 25th kickoff event, and hopefully some other of the other events throughout the summer. So feel free to hit us up on site. And I will look at the chat for the questions.
We'll go through and answer some questions at the end. I think will be easiest. So
Cool.
now we are going to have Pike Spector with OPC, who will be talking more about the federal and funding aspects of Caspar Cove and restoration, kelp forest restoration. Go ahead, Pike.
Awesome, right on. Thanks, Annie. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Pike Spector, and I am a biodiversity program manager with the California Ocean Protection Council. For those of you unfamiliar with the OPC, we are a cabinet-level policy body within the California Natural Resources Agency, and our mission is to protect California's coast and ocean. Next slide, please. We achieve this mission through the 4 pillars of our strategic plan. Safeguarding coastal and marine biodiversity is the nexus of my program area, and we are deeply committed to understanding, conserving, and restoring vital marine ecosystems and bolstering nearshore biodiversity. So next slide, please. Given the theme of tonight's webinar, I'm sure you're all most interested in what we're doing for California's kelp forest ecosystems. Catalyzed by the near-total kelp canopy collapse on the North Coast over the last decade or so, as Annie mentioned earlier, the state has taken bold action to conserve, restore, and protect biodiversity, bolster climate resilience, and maintain ecosystem services. In 2021, the state released a kelp action plan containing strategies and opportunities to address the kelp crisis, and so far, OPC has invested more than $15 million to implement the action plan. This includes monitoring kelp forest health, improving our understanding of kelp loss and recovery, and testing restoration approaches. Next slide, please. We've also doubled down on our vision for implementing 30 by 30, and recently brought forth our vision for a $10 million investment to support that end at the March 23rd OPC meeting. In December of 2025, we had our 5-year strategic plan approved by the council, and in 2024, this great state overwhelmingly passed Proposition 4, also known as the Climate Bond. But more on those 2 points soon. Next slide, please. To continue moving the needle forward, the state released an enhanced status report for giant and bull kelp several years ago and issued a precautionary closure for bull kelp harvest on the North Coast to help aid in natural recovery. As you just heard from Shelby, in 2023, we took a major step forward by launching the development of a statewide, ecosystem-based, adaptive kelp restoration and management plan. We're working to ensure that this statewide plan, which builds on the action plan, is informed by the best available science, community input, and tribal perspectives. Next slide, please. Our vision isn't to simply put a Band-Aid on the axe wound. We're actively working to make meaningful progress against the dual threats of anthropogenic climate change and biodiversity loss. We're engaging meaningfully with a diversity of partners, addressing knowledge gaps, learning by doing, and working to get the KRMP developed and implemented at breakneck speed. Next slide, please. Oh, awesome. Thanks. So I'm thrilled to share that we're now effectively armed to the teeth. I hinted at this earlier, but our 2026 to 2030 strategic plan was adopted by our council at our December 2025 meeting. In this plan, we have bold targets to help us achieve our vision. Most of the targets under Objective 3.3 fall squarely in my program area, and you're reading Objective 3.3.2 correctly, assuming you can see it there. We have a 2030 deadline to restore 2,000 acres of kelp forests across this great state. Is it ambitious? Well, you'd better believe it. But not only has the council spoken, California voters have as well. Thanks to Proposition 4, we have a lever long enough to make positive and impactful change. And in the words of OPC Council Member Dr. Alexis Jackson, we have to be uncomfortable in the pursuit of excellence. Next slide, please. It's movements like the Caspar Cove project that have helped catalyze this momentum, and I'm deeply moved by the tireless commitment and enthusiasm of this group on the North Coast and the other kelp forest aficionados across the entire West Coast. Thanks for your time, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Pike. I realized I just said federal, but I meant state. Oh, well. All right. Well, next we have Pete Guinosso. He's the executive director of Blue Harmony, who's kind of been leading a lot of the communication side of Caspar Cove and has kind of taken on some of these steps that and then huge hole that that Josh has left. So I'll leave it to you, Pete.
Thanks, Annie. I appreciate that. I'm pretty impressed you can actually pronounce my name. That's it's pretty awesome, Annie.
Well, at least I got one of you.
Totally. Yeah, my name is Pete Guinosso. I'm from Blue Harmony, and we're proud to support the Caspar Cove project. We've been actually helping out with Josh for the last 2 to 3 years through outreach and storytelling and volunteer engagement. We're involved with this project for a number of reasons, but one of our mottos at Blue Harmony is if you see something that should be done and you think somebody should do something, just remember you're somebody. And so we're stepping forward to help support this project even more so with Josh's leaving. Next slide, please. With Josh's death, pardon me. So Blue Harmony, Caspar Cove is not just a beautiful place for me. It's a part of my family story. My wife's family and I used to come here to dive for abalone when abalone season was still open. And over time, we fell in love with this place. We fell in love with the ocean, the shoreline, the stillness, and the magic of being here. This photo that I'm sharing with the rainbow over Caspar Cove says so much to me. It feels like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is Caspar Cove. And I'm doing this work because I care deeply about the ocean and because I care about what I'm leaving for my daughter. And I want her to know the beauty of places like this, and I want to do my help to protect them. And that's why I'm here doing this work. Next slide, please. But I just want to kind of put this out to the community that Caspar Cove is not just a special place to dive. It's a special place to just be together and visit. It's a place where families can watch divers head into the water, gather on the beach, build sandcastles, have a fire like this, watch the sunset. For me, that's part of what makes Caspar Cove so meaningful. It's just not just a place of restoration beneath the surface. It's also a place where memories are made above it. Next slide, please. You also notice that on the side of every slide, I have a little QR code, and that's my invitation for you to help join our newsletter, which I send out an email probably 2 to 3 times a month. I send out information. I just want to kind of acknowledge that this project could not be done without the collaboration of all these great people that are on this webinar doing this work. And there's a beautiful African proverb that if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we're definitely going far with this group of people working together. Next slide, please. And that's true also with our volunteers, right? The greatest legacy we can leave is not what we said, but what we showed up for. And that's what moves me most about this project is the people. Volunteers keep showing up. They drive long distances, suit up. under cold water and give their time and energy because they care deeply about this place. And they're not doing it for attention. They do it because they love the ocean and want to be a part of something that matters. And I must say that every dive feels like an act of devotion to the cove, to the kelp, and to the possibility that healing can happen when people are willing to show up for this project. Next slide, please. And so we couldn't do this work without the volunteers. This project is here because the people care enough to, again, keep showing up. And I just wanted to let you know how deeply you're appreciated because of that. And I'll be sharing an award ceremony later on, awards that I'll be giving. And that's one of the ways we can honor you showing up. Next slide, please. So Shelby mentioned this already, but if you want to be a part of this effort in the water, the first step is getting your California fishing license. From there, you can dive anytime at a Caspar Cove. So it's not just the weekends we're there, but anytime, and help remove unlimited purple sea urchins as part of this work. People participate by both snorkel and scuba, and most use a welding hammer to crush or cull the urchins underwater. And one of the most important things you do is log your dive. And I have that on the website, but we also have a click for the QR code at the site at Caspar Cove. This helps us document the impact of this community effort. And again, we gather once a month from April to September on the last Saturday of each month, and I'll review that a little bit later on. We will plan on having an air compressor on site. And then we just, ask you to respect all the regulations, help us care for this place responsibly. Next slide, please. I want to just let you know that you don't have to be a diver to be part of this work. Non-divers can help with outreach, logistics, storytelling, and simply helping more people understand why this place matters. Having taught or shared this information with my community and also at dive clubs, I can tell you that not everyone knows that 90 to 95% of the kelp is gone in Northern California. And I think you on this call, spreading the word will help support getting that information out there and that people can be involved with helping to bring back the kelp. Next slide, please. So this is what I put together with Josh. Josh and I put this together. We have a website. We have a newsletter. Next slide, please. We also have the Waterman's Alliance Facebook page. And when I met Josh, this is one of the reasons why I got involved with it, because I said, Josh, I think we need a website to help promote this project. And then we also have an Instagram page. You can join those through our website. Next slide, please. And then here's the postcards and poster I put together to help promote the event. And I'll be bringing those to every event. I'll be, since Josh passed away, I've stepped forward and I plan on trying to be there at every event. If I can't make it, we'll have someone there to help hold the space. But I plan on being there at every event. Next slide, please. So Caspar Cove has a way of touching people. It's not just the beauty of the place, but the feeling of being connected to something more precious and worth protecting. And one of the best ways we can help this project grow is simply by sharing that feeling with others. So if this project, this Caspar Cove speaks to you, please help us spread the word. Tell your friends, invite your family, share the project with people who care about this ocean community and hope. And please sign up for our newsletter so you can stay connected to upcoming dives, events, and ways to be a part of what's happening here. Thank you so much. Next slide is just my email. And that can be, you can find that through the website as well. But I'm the guy who answers at casparcoveproject@gmail.com. Thank you.
Nice job, Pete.
Thanks, Tom.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. All right, so now we're just gonna switch gears for a little bit and focus on last year's results of Caspar Cove. I think Shelby, yours the next slide. Yeah, you want to take over for more of the diver side?
Yes, thank you. So here's the summary of the data that we pulled from the volunteer dive log. These are what the recreational divers who worked on the project reported from 2025. So there were 165 unique participants, 450 dives reported, over 270,000 purple urchin removed or culled, and effort primarily was reported in cells A and B from shore, utilizing both free and scuba diving. Just so you know, this is actually up from the 2024 stats with an additional 34 more unique divers and 100 more dives than 2024. So keep up the great work.
All right, so now we're switching gears to Ben, who will talk more about the drone surveys that TNC lead for Caspar Cove. Go take it away, Ben.
Thanks, Annie. Hey, everyone. I'm Ben, and I'm a scientist at the Nature Conservancy. Um, as Annie said today, I'll be focusing on the drone side of things. So, basically, kelp canopy, and this is what we can see from the surface, whereas Annie and Frankie are going to get into what's going on subtidally at the site after me. Can you go to the next slide? Thanks, Annie. I promise this is my one slide that has a lot of writing on it, but just for some context, we're able to better understand, protect, and restore kelp by using various remote sensing technologies. And when I say remote sensing, what I mean is basically it's just a general term that describes the science or the process of acquiring information about the Earth's surface from an elevated viewpoint. So this could be images taken from like a satellite or a plane or a drone. Um, for example, on the right here, the Nature Conservancy and partners at UCLA and Woods Hole created a tool called Kelp Watch a few years back. So this tool allows you to choose between two types of satellites, one which is 3 meter resolution and one which is 30. And you can see kelp canopy going back to 1984. And so it's really fun to play with. If y'all haven't, please go to kelpwatch.org, zoom in on whatever cove you're interested. Um, and you can observe those changes. And while these satellite-based tools are really helpful for observing long-term regional changes, when we're looking at like a very like a specific kelp bed specific change, where we might be doing restoration, they're not quite high enough resolution. And so therefore in 2019, we developed a new methodology using drones. This was in collaboration with Woods Hole, Hawkeye Institute, UCLA, and Greater Farallones Association to get like super high 3 centimeter resolution kelp canopy data. Can you go to the next slide, Annie? And so if any of y'all went to the North Coast Kelp Fest this year in Mendocino, you may have seen us fly the drone from Big River. But if not, we essentially just use a flight planning software to send the drone out. It takes a lot of photos along a predetermined track, and then we stitch those together using a software into a single image. And then we can use a program called Kelpomatic to then classify that kelp so that we can do spatial analysis on it. And that spatial analysis is the next few slides that I'm going to talk to you guys about. So next slide, Annie. So for reference, as we go through these next few years, my understanding is the main site indicators people are using for the Caspar Cove Restoration Project are like the triangle. And so this is the area where harvest is happening, the 3 dots, and then you've also got the rock with and without the chain. And then there's the 6 zones that everyone's talked to you about today. And then for these next few slides, kelp is going to be highlighted. The canopy is that like bright green color on the map that you're seeing. And this image is an orthomosaic created by a drone of Caspar site. And I personally just really love this one because you can see exactly where the rocky reef is and everything. So 2020, you can see there's very little kelp at the site. And that's one of the reasons ultimately, I think why this site was chosen for the project. Next slide, Annie. And so, as you can see, restoration work started about 2021, and you can like every few seconds click through until you get to 2023. And so my understanding is like 2023 is when the bulk of these, oh, go back one slide. Bulk of these efforts are going on at the site as far as in cell A and B, Caspar Cove recreational harvest. And then on the north side in F, there was even some commercial divers working in there as well as Cal Poly Humboldt. And so I think like 2023 is really when the coordinated efforts take off. And then next slide, Annie. And yeah, and you can see that reflected in just like the huge increase in kelp canopy that we saw in 2024. And then next slide. And then 2025 is my favorite, just because like if you can see all the canopy that's around the triangle and cells A and B where all of this restoration work is happening. And I like to think this is definitely a result of all of y'all's efforts as well as favorable natural favorable conditions for kelp recruitment. And then what does this look like in numbers? Thanks, Annie. So what we can see is from 2020, before restoration started, to 2020, fall of 2025, we see a nearly 800% increase in canopy at the site, which is awesome news. And while I don't have canopy information from the control site, I can tell you that there has been very little site at Frolic, or very little kelp canopy in recovery at Frolic Cove, which is just one cove south. And I think Annie will tell you guys a bit about the control site as well. Um, and yeah, that's all I have on the data side of things. Next slide, Annie. I do want to just make a plug for the official dates for Kelp Fest for 2026 have been released, so it's going to be October 9th to 12th. If y'all haven't had a chance, it's cool. It's in the local community. It's an event that centralizes art, science, food, and film around kelp. And next slide. And yeah, I just want to thank you all for letting me share this out today and for all the work everyone's doing to help bring kelp back at Caspar. And I'm super excited and hope to make an event this year. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ben. It's so cool to see all those photos and yeah, just very exciting. So I think my section now, we're going to be talking more of the subtitle results of what Reef Check does, and it complements pretty, spoiler alert, well of what Ben has shown. Whoops, there we go. So I know many of you are Reef Check volunteers, but there may be a handful of you or some of you who are unfamiliar of what Reef Check does and what we do. We're a citizen science organization that collects long-term monitoring data. And since 2020, we've focused on restoration efforts as well, monitoring restoration efforts and conducting some. We monitor kelp forests around the world. I should say we monitor ecosystems around the world, but kelp forests specifically, we monitor across the entire west coast of North America, from Baja, California, all the way to British Columbia. And we use a standardized ecosystem assessment that looks at indicator species such as fish, invertebrates, kelp, and substrate. Just to kind of give you a brief look as to how we conduct these transects, we lay out a transect tape, a 30-meter transect tape, which again is about 100 feet. And our search area is with a 2-meter swath. So we're looking at any of those indicator species that I mentioned before, specific species along this transect line. So it ends up being a 60-meter squared area. We do this 6 times for our long-term monitoring transects, and then for our restoration transects, we usually expand it depending on the size of the site to better assess, changes over time. So again, I know you've seen this map several times, but I'm going to bring it up again. Ben was exactly right. So most of the efforts has been occurring in this cell A, where previously there was 3 buoys in this triangular area. So initially, we were sending most of the divers to target that triangular area first, and then if that area was cleared, people would move on to cell B. From my understanding, not many of the recreational efforts have really occurred in F or E or D. That was mostly like we mentioned before, Cal Poly Humboldt did some work, and commercial urchins have done some removal efforts over there. So we have a long-term monitoring site. We call this Caspar South. This is our original 6 transects on the site, which we started in 2007, I believe. And then in that area where we had people targeting urchin removal efforts, we added 3 additional transects, and that was in 2022, just to assess that effort as well a little bit better. We do have another site on the other side of the cove. So this is in cell D. So if you see this little reference, it's all the way on the other side, a little too far out for anybody to swim, where not much effort has occurred. Here we go. So in cell D. We also have Frolic Cove, which we use as a control site for Caspar Cove. And this is our 6 long-term monitoring sites here. It's just south of Caspar Cove. So just to give you an idea, so this I just given you a graph from summer 2020 when the project started all the way to fall 2025. We monitor each one of these sites seasonally, I should say. And this is purple urchin densities. So this is per meter squared to kind of give you an idea how dense these urchins are. So in the lower here, the purple south culling area is that specific triangular targeted area where we were able to get urchin densities along this targeted urchin density threshold that I mentioned before, which is 2 urchins per square meter. So you can see that most of the efforts have gotten to that, and then sometimes in the spring or in the fall or in the summer, densities get a little bit higher, especially right here in spring 2025, where people haven't been in the water all of the winter, and then they get in the water again and it drops back down, and the removal efforts are successful. Caspar South here, that blue, the darker blue, is that other site, the 6 transects I mentioned before, a little bit more variable. And then Caspar North, which was in cell D, we're seeing much higher urchin densities through time. And of course, that Frolic Cove, which is that control site, that control site, we're getting up to, 30 to 40 urchins per square meter. And this is the results from this last year. Just to look at it like transect by transect and not taking the overall average across these transects, you can see that. So again, on this top right corner here, I have it labeled our long-term monitoring transects, those 6 30-meter transects that we have as replicates, and then the 3 targeted transects in the purple area, the targeted culling area. So again, we can see that in spring, last year specifically, densities were a little bit higher after that, that break in the winter, and then we were able to drop urchin densities pretty dang low in the summer in that targeted area. And then as the transects are getting further and further away, and more likely that people are unwilling to swim hundreds of meters out from shore, you can see that urchin densities are increasing. So this is looking at bull kelp over time. This is a little bit of a different scale here. Instead of the per meter squared, we're looking at per survey, which is at 60 meters squared. Again, we haven't seen any bull kelp. I haven't shared the data from previous, but it's, the story, it's been no kelp there since 2014. So this is just starting where the project started in 2020. Again, we mentioned before, Northern California was really hit by COVID, so we didn't have a lot of removal efforts until around 2023, where you start to see that purple line, which is again specifically in that targeted area, a big bounce and return. And then as of last year, summer and fall of 2025, we were seeing 50 to 75 individual adult bull kelp, specifically within that targeted area. A little bit less so as you get further from shore. Oh no, this got cut off. Maybe I could still see it. So again, looking at it in the same way as that previous slide, just looking at the transects specifically. So you can see that a lot of the bull kelp adults were within that culling area where we've been targeting most of our removal efforts. And then as we swim away from shore to transect 6 here, the bull kelp densities are getting less and less. And we saw the highest adult bull kelps in the summer last year. Oy. Oh no. Oh, here we go. So here's a video taken in, I'm not quite sure when this is taken, by Ian, just to kind of show you what the site has been looking like. Pretty amazing considering that there was no kelp there for 10 years. All right. I think you guys get the, oh, whoa, that was a good one. Here we go. We don't need to sit here for the whole minute 36 seconds. So other species results, as I mentioned, we do more than just kelp and urchin surveys. We also record fish and invertebrates and as well. We did record understory kelp and had the first observations in 2024, and they've really expanded in 2025. They were still really low numbers, and I didn't think it was worth showing in a graph, so I just figured I'd just let you know instead. I took a quick look in invertebrate densities, including abalone, and so far we haven't seen any signals in invertebrate densities, but this has been the same response in our other restoration sites. It takes quite a bit of time before when kelp returns before you start seeing those other signals. And then for fish surveys, we do fish surveys every single time, or as weather visibility allows. But when you're culling urchins, fish are attracted to the divers, and it really makes it hard to report upon fish. But I think in the next future webinars, we'll look more about like species richness and diversity to see how that's changed through time. So if you want to, oh wait, sorry, this is just a summary of volunteer effort in Caspar Cove, specifically for Reef Check, not the culling activities. So in 2025, we had 15 volunteer divers. We did a total of 40 dives across 6 surveys. Specifically, again, this is just Caspar Cove, not counting the control site. And then since 2020, we had 50 volunteer divers, 163 total dives, and 30 surveys. So we monitor that 3 times a year. Huge effort from our volunteers. And I should say that counting 1,500 urchins in a transect multiple times is not a fun thing to do. So they're rock stars. So 2026 updates, spring surveys are underway. And if you want to get involved, we have classes offered up and down the entire coast of California, and well, in Oregon and Washington too, if you happen to be not in California. The next Fort Bragg class is May through June, and there's research available too if you're already certified, June 20th and 21st. If you are a diver and want to participate with Reef Check, we do require you to have a minimal of rescue cert diving, a minimal of 30 log dives. 15 of those have to be in California or other temperate region, 6 dives within the last year, and then some other medical and age restrictions as well. But get in contact with Ian. He knows all things Reef Check training. He's our North Coast regional manager. All right, so that's it for Reef Check. Now we're going to switch to Frankie, who will be talking more of the university side of things and their long-term monitoring efforts. Go ahead, Frankie.
Thanks, Annie. My name is Frankie Moitozo, and I'm a research associate at Cal Poly Humboldt. I lead Team Nerio. It's our dive research team that has been doing all things shallow rocky reef and kelp forest related, but primarily the marine protected area monitoring that has taken place on the north and the north central coast. Next slide. I'm just focusing in only on Caspar today, and I'm really only focusing in on Caspar 2. And you might see over here in A, the circled replicate it's actually just outside of the zone D that was demarcated that you saw Annie show with the Reef Check Caspar North surveys. So we're just outside of that. Our surveys are conducted at multiple depths, and so we actually look at the inner reef, which is about 12 feet deep, mid, which is around 35 to 40, and then our outers, which are somewhere in the ballpark of 60 feet of depth. Next slide. So I'm just going to jump into the data. So we have been there since 2014. I'm not going to show any slides with kelp or anything on it, but because it's kind of sad. But in 2014, we actually did have bull kelp nerecystis on the surface when we did our particular survey that year. And then since then, we have not had bull kelp or any other kelp actually show up on any of our transects across all our depths. Urchin abundances have clearly changed. So even in 2014, when we started to see the initial recruitment, the numbers we thought were pretty high they weren't as high as they ended up getting. 2024, actually 2 years ago, was the peak. When you look at the shallow depth transects, it was about 98 per square meter in that part of the cove. This is an area where very minimal restoration, removals, anything like that has happened. So I'd say it's kind of almost a control in and of itself for Caspar Cove. That total actually decreased this last year. So there was a 23% decrease in the overall density, all depths combined, between 2024 and 2025, which kind of gives some signs of hope. Next slide. We do these surveys very much essentially aligned with the Reef Check protocols. And I wanted to also focus in on red urchins. The commercial harvest there in Caspar area was extremely important for many years. And unlike some areas on the North Coast, the population has remained relatively stable for the red urchins. We haven't seen really a significant overall decrease like we have in other areas and even within marine protected areas. Next slide. Some of the bright spots. This was something that was completely unexpected. There are 3 different abalone species in Northern California. There's the red abalone that was the recreationally harvested largest abalone in the world. The northern pinto abalone that actually goes from kind of up in the Aleutian chain of Alaskan islands all the way down into Southern California, and the flat abalone, which kind of is from Santa Barbara into Oregon. Red abalone and flat abalone are not doing well. Both 2024 and this past 2025, we did not have a red abalone on transect. They were nearby, but they were kind of up on the shallow wave wash rocks that had just a tiny bit of algae up on them. Pinto abalone, though, have returned to kind of their original densities. So we saw this huge uptick in the population of pinto abalone, and this could be for a couple different reasons. Pinto are one of the smallest species of abalone, and since they are smaller, mainly because of kind of their metabolic requirements. This allows them to not have to eat as much. Another thing is that because they are smaller, it is also likely that they were outcompeted by red abalone, and having the red abalone population decrease may have a competitive edge and allowed them to recruit successfully live on the reef. Next slide.
Hey Siri, what is today?
I looked at overall richness. I really wanted to focus in on the shallow, the 12-foot depth. Richness changes across depths, but the most drastic change was inside that shallow depth zone, where many of us used to dive for abalone and such. And so back in 16 taxa on average that would show up on these transects, and that has actually low for those transects at 6, which also kind of just means the community has continued to kind of have certain organisms that more moonscape urchin bearing community archetype. Next slide. Another species that may have been that case are rock scallops. We've seen this steady increase in the abundance of rock scallops. Not sure why. Again, thinking that this might be a space availability, but definitely something that we all welcome and good signs. Next slide. And a little bit about fish. So this is only for 2025. Fish surveys are really complicated and they don't exactly overlap with the traditional benthic surveys. But I wanted to point out that out there at those 3 different depths, we did see plenty of lingcod, black, blue rockfish, canary rockfish, vermilion, gopher, and we even saw one of those rare quillback rockfish that was about 27 centimeters in total length. We also saw many pile and striped surf perch. Last year, we saw an incredible amount of what we call young of the year recruits. And these were primarily black or olive yellowtail recruits, as well as canary recruits. I thought the most interesting thing, I actually got to do the dives, which is not normal, last year when we were in Casper, and it was incredible the amount of canary recruits that had come in. It's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like that before. So another good sign. Next slide. Thanks everybody for listening. I put this picture as the last picture because you might see in the very middle that there's just a little itty bitty sea star. So there's a couple of these little friends that have been spotted across the North Coast. Last weekend, the scientific dive program for Cal Poly Humboldt was conducting dive training there at Caspar Cove, and they actually found tiny Pycnopodia. So they are starting to show up across the coastline. Research partners working in the Big River area have spotted a few. Down in the Sonoma coast, a few have even been spotted. And my research team doing a different project in Trinidad up in Humboldt County also came across a few this last year. So there are some good signs from the environment. Although you can see there is definitely a space for community engagement and helping to manage our kelp forest resources. Thank you.
Yay! Super exciting. I didn't know you guys saw one in Caspar Cove, so we'll be on the lookout for our spring surveys. Okay, so how do we get involved in April? This is for Pete. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Pete.
Thanks, Annie. Just connecting with you that April 25th, we'll be having our first opening dive. Part of that will be diving, but also honoring Josh Russo with kind of a memorial plaque, a memorial dive. All day, we'll have a little of a book out there. We put together a little photo book, and then we'll have a potluck and a little bit of tribute where we're actually give to Leslie the book as well as Lifetime Achievement Award, which I'll review in a second. Next slide, please. This is on the website, but it's the last Saturday of each month, April through September. And I send that out also via newsletter. Next slide, please. And then I'm excited to introduce this. This is actually the last conversation that Josh and I had, which was creating the Caspar Cove Project Awards, which is honoring the heart of our community. This project has always been about more than just about restoration. It's been about people who care deeply, give generously, and keep showing up for something bigger than themselves. The Caspar Cove Project Awards are a way to recognize and celebrate the individuals who carry the heart of this community and the people who lead with love, who serve with humility, and who remind us that some of the most important work in the world is done not for recognition, but because it matters. Next slide. We created the Josh Russo Award, Most Dedicated Volunteer, and honoring Josh's legacy by recognizing a volunteer who reflects his generosity, grit, humility, and commitment to showing up for the ocean community. We also have the Caspar Cove Lifetime Achievement Award, which is a legacy of stewardship. And this will be celebrating an individual whose long-term commitment or dedication has made a lasting impact on the ocean stewardship and the Caspar Cove community. And the High Impact Diver Award, also known as the Urchinator, which I think that might be the Perps using that, or maybe Keith's group is using that. But I just love the Urchinator. And that's recognizing the diver who shows up consistently through the season to help with removal. And then someone who is called the Ocean Advocate Award for the person who helps spread the word and inspires others and grows the community around this work. Next slide, please. I created this, and I'll be giving this in memory of Josh to Leslie on that first day. It's a really beautiful award. Next slide, please. And then the August 29th is when we're planning on having the first award ceremony. We're not sure where that's going to be. It could be a jug handle. They have a place over there, or maybe over at the Abalone Room at the Little River Inn. But please mark off August 29th for the first award ceremony that we'll be doing. And the next slide, please. And then as we move toward the close of this webinar, I just want to say that what is happening at Caspar Cove gives me real hope. This work is not only about urchins or kelp, it's about people choosing to care for a place that has given so much and choosing not to give up on it. And healing happens little by little, dive by dive, act by act, person by person. Every volunteer, every partner, every family member, every person who helps spread the word becomes part of that healing. Together, we really can restore balance, and together we can help leave something more beautiful and hopeful for the generations that come after us. And that is also why we were so excited to introduce the Caspar Cove Project Awards, to honor the heart of this community, the people who show up and give back and help carry this work forward. And next slide, please. And I took Josh's picture. By the way, no one has volunteered to do the tri-tip survey. If someone wants to do that, let me know. I'll take a stab at it as needed. But be like Josh, show up. And, as we close out, bringing it back to Josh, Josh showed us what it means to love a place enough to keep showing up for it. And his legacy lives on in every time someone comes to the Cove ready to help, ready to care, and ready to give what they can. So that is the invitation. Be like Josh, show up, because the ocean does not need everyone. It needs the ones who are willing to show up. And next slide, please. Come to the Cove, bring your family, dive, volunteer, support, or help us tell this story. However you are called to be part of this, there is a place for you here. Let's show up for Caspar Cove, let's show up for each other, and let's show up for the future. And together we can restore balance. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Again, Pete, you nailed it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here is a slide. Maybe take a screenshot or a photo for any or all our contact details if you want to get in touch. And now I know it's 7:08, but we're more than happy, well, I should say for myself at least, but happy to stay on for a little bit and take some questions.